Today's lesson is on simple and compound interest. So first let's talk about what interest is. Interest is the amount of money that we get paid for lending or investing money, or it could be the money that we pay for borrowing money, and we're going to denote this as I, capital letter I. Principal is the initial amount of money deposited or borrowed, denoted as capital P. The next definition we need to know is rate or interest rate. Interest rate is the charge for interest, given as a percent, assumed to be per year, denoted as R. Simple interest is interest calculated only on the principal. And it is only calculated once and only once. There is a formula for the simple interest, and that is interest equals the principal, which is what the amount of money you start with, times the rate, given as a decimal, times the time, given in years. A shortcut to that would just be I equals PRT. So let's do some examples for that. Our first example says, find the simple interest owed for the use of this money. P equals 180, that's principal. R equals the rate, which is 4%, and T equals 2 years. Time always has to be in years, and if it's not in years, then you need to convert it into years. So because I already have everything here, I can just go ahead and plug this in. I equals P times R times T. We have I times 180 times rate. Now that rate needs to be given in a decimal, so you can't put 4. We're going to change that into percent, meaning move the decimal over 2 places to the left, so that's 0.04. And every time you're going to be using rate as a percentage, you need to change it into a decimal. So we have 180 times 0.04 times 2, because it's in years already, 2 years. So now I need to get out my calculator. Now there's lots of different calculators that you could use, scientific or 4-function. I'm going to show you 2 different ones in this video so far. I have 180 times 0.04 times 2, and that got me 14.4. So as an interest, this is how much interest you're going to earn. So that's money. So we need to put a dollar sign on it and make sure you have 2 places after the decimal for cents. So this is $14.40 that you're going to be paid for letting someone use $180 for the 2 years. Now, it could be you're borrowing the $180 for 2 years, and then you'll owe not only the $180 back, but you'll also owe the $14.40 in interest. Our next example, a student took out a simple interest loan for $2,400 for 8 months at a rate of 7%. What is the interest on the loan? So we have I, P, R, and T are our variables. When I reread it, I have he took out a loan for $2,400, so that's my principal, for 8 months. 8 months is time, right? But because time has to be in years, 8 months out of 12 years reduces to 2/3 of a year. It always has to be in years. Time always needs to be in years. My rate is 7%, but I'm going to use 0.07 because it needs to be in a decimal. So I'm going to take I is what I don't know, so I have a question mark on that. My formula is I equals P, which is 2,400, times my rate, which is 0.07, times my time, which in this case is 2/3. So I get my calculator out again. 2,400 times 0.07 times 2/3. If you have a fraction key, you can go ahead and use that. And that gives me 112. So for this particular situation, the student is going to owe $112 at the end of the 8 months. for simple interest, meaning the interest is only calculated once. For our next example, you deposit $3,000 in a savings account, which has an interest rate of 6%. Find your interest after 144 days. This problem tells you to assume a 360-day calendar. 360 is just a little bit nicer to work with, and a lot of books have you do that. We don't know the interest, but we're trying to find the interest, so that's the question mark. We don't know. P, let's see, P is going to be $3,000 because that's what we're depositing in our savings account. My rate is 6%, so 0.06, and my time is 144 days. But remember, we said we have to be in years. So if I have 144 days out of 360, because it's recommending we use a 360-day calendar, then I can reduce that. I think if I get my calculator out, if I just take 144 over 360, now I probably could have just typed it in my calculator that way, but this does reduce to 2/5. So when I plug it in, I have I equals P, which is 3,000, times my rate, which is 0.06, times my time, which is 2/5 of a year. And I'm going to multiply that out. So I have 3,000 times 0.06 times 2/5. And that gets me $72. And so $72 is what you're going to be added into your account after the 144 days that you've left your deposit of $3,000 in the bank. So that's kind of great. So next we're going to talk about future value. When a loan is repaid, the interest is added to the original principal to find the total amount due, essentially taking the principal plus the interest equals the total amount due, or we could call it future value. So for the example above, the principal was $3,000 and the interest earned for the 144 days was $72. So at the end of the loan, the account will have $3,000 plus 72, which is $3,072. This is the future value of that account. Okay, so the future value definition is the value of the account at a future time, or we can call that principal plus interest, denoted as A. A is going to be our future value, so A is equal to P plus I. Now the present value is the principal, or the initial value of the account, denoted as P. So principal, present value, that kind of reminds you that they're the same, and we're going to be using P for that. Now in simple interest, we have A equals P plus I. That was the formula we just realized that if you take your principal or the present value and we add the interest to it, that's what you should get in the future, right? But we also know that I can replace I with PRT. And the reason I know that is because I is equal to PRT. That's the formula that we've been using on our previous examples. So if I replace I with PRT, I have this new formula. Notice that there's a P in both of them, so if I factor out a P, that leaves me with 1 plus RT. And this is our new formula for future value. The future value A of P dollars at simple interest rate for T years is given by A equals P parentheses 1 plus RT. And that's what's going to help you figure out that like 3,072 without having to do 2 steps of work. You're just going to plug it in and you're going to get your future value of the loan with the principal and the interest. And we'll have to do some examples on that.